Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello and welcome back.
Guys, I think there could be no more important message than this one. This is really the bottom line of what it's going to take to work through these times and survive these times, not only survive these times, but usher in a much better era, a much better world.
And it's something that's going to take a lot of courage on different people's parts.
So, what is dogma? And so we're looking at the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and we see that the first definition, something held as an established opinion. Okay? Something held as an established opinion. And when we look throughout history, opinions change. Science changes, understandings changes, everything changes. Ultimate reality is that everything is energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed, but it is always in a state of change.
Exactly.
So yesterday's dogma is not today's reality. That's the bottom line. So look at the second one, a definite authoritative tenet. Okay, something that's held as being authoritative. And many people I had like a best friend for years back in my late teens, early 20s. And, he dragged me to church, and I went along with it and went deeper and deeper with them. And we found that when we were in, say, one particular church, the tenets, the dogma was different than another church. And so then you go to another, and it's slightly different again. Well, I remember when a Baptist preacher came knocking on my door, and I was brought up Catholic, and I was, I think, 11 years old. And he said, well, we believe that all you have to do is just basically love, Jesus and love each other, and then you're going to go to heaven. And there's nothing else? No. You mean you don't have to go to a church and we don't have to, tithe to the Pope and the Vatican? No. All you have to do is just love in your heart Jesus and, get baptized, say a few words, and you're good. Oh, so you don't really believe in, works. Well, works are nice, but they're not necessary. So you could see that, from church to church, from different denomination to different denomination, they're different. And then we also see it also as a point of view or a tenet put forth or as authoritative without adequate grounds. And many, like my friend included, used to say all the time, the Bible's perfect. There is not one flaw. There's not one error in it. And unfortunately, he never did any research because there's thousands of edits in the oldest copy of the Gospel of John. You see words crossed out and new words put in. And this is the case with, pretty much all the ones we have. And that's a problem. When we assume things and they're based on illusion, they're not based on fact. They're based on what we want, not what we really have as fact. Then we're basically deluding ourselves and brainwashing ourselves to the point where we could become religious zealots and actually cause division and divisiveness instead of coming together. And we see the second definition, a doctrine or body of doctrines concerning faith or morals formally stated and authoritatively proclaimed by a church. And when we could look at the history of, say, the Roman Catholic Church, for instance, we see there's a, to put it in a gentle way, there's a lot of gray in there.
Yes, very much.
So this is one of the most divisive statements. It's become one of the most divisive statements ever. And Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And that's John 14:6. But that in itself can be debated as to what he was saying. And to me, it's his example, because recognize that there was no official church for over 300 years after his death. 300 years after his death. And that official church was put together by a man, an emperor, who killed his wife and child in order to keep power, who then killed many other people, hundreds, if not thousands, that would disagree with his official version that was put forth by his bishops that were appointed by him, who were all relatively wealthy men at that time in powerful positions. And their number one thing was keeping their power. For that man, Constantine the Great, was actually a pagan, and he only converted when he, quote unquote, saw a vision that said conquer in the sign of the cross. And again, Christ says somebody slaps your cheek, let him slap the other one too. If somebody wants your cloak, give him your tunic as well. Not exactly a warlike being. So when Jesus is saying, I am the way and the truth and the life, it's his example. And his example was he loved unto being put to death. So that's the example. Never swaying from your course, never allowing others to taint you in any way, pull you down in any way. Did he ever show vengeance? I mean, he got angry at the money changers. He flipped tables and he yelled at them. He even swore. He said raka, which was a naughty word in those days. And, he did show emotions, but he didn't kill anybody. He didn't grab a sword and go and use it on anybody else that was disagreeing with him. He didn't go try to conquer the world, and then others will say, well, at his next coming, he's going to come as a conqueror on a white horse. Yeah, that's interesting, because you have that same vision of Kalki coming out of the Hindu tradition as an avatar of Krishna. And then we also have the Islamic people that are expecting their Imam Mahdi to come, unify Islam under one person, and conquer the world for Islam. Interesting. We see all these different traditions have that same view. And of course, people will say, well, it's written in the Bible. Look at Matthew and Mark. Matthew 24, for instance, there'll be wars and rumors of wars. But the end is not yet. And it even says that. And plus, there's been wars and rumors of wars going back to the time of Christ and going back thousands of years before. There have never been a time when there was no wars and rumors of wars. Of course, we have a lot of other things going on right now. But then the question is, are they man-made? Are they created by people trying to create an air of, death and destruction, to create a certain vibrational frequency that keeps us all separate and divisive? So when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, to me is clearly he's talking about the example he led, which was one of compassion, of healing others, of believing in the greater good and showing people the way, not through warfare, not through conquering, not through death and destruction, but being willing to even give up your own life for your ideals. And that is the way, the truth, and the life. If you're going to say, it's one particular religious dogma, you're fighting an uphill battle. When we look at the size of major religious groups, right here we see 32% of the world roughly Christian, 23% Muslim. So that's 55%, and Jews make up 0.2%. So a little bit over 55% of the world comes out of the Abrahamic traditions. Compared to the rest of the world, you see 7% Buddhist, 15% Hindu. And when you get into Hinduism, boy, you could break that down into hundreds and thousands of different belief sets. Of course, there's tons of gods, but, and people view the Hindus as being polytheistic, but that's not really the case, because they don't view them as source, although source is in every single one of us. And, they do believe there is Brahman, which is an unknowable source. That is something that we can't conceive of in these limited brains, but we can know when we escape the mind and the body and get a glimpse of the greater truth. And Buddhism and Jainism, as well as Sikhism, comes out of, at least in part, the Hindu faith. When we look at how the world religions are growing, we see this is going to even be a world that's even more dominated at the current projections in 2045 by Christians and Muslims. When we look at how many Christian denominations are there, there's over 30,000 Christian denominations. So these are all, having different dogmas to slight degrees. Some believe a little bit in a different way than others. Which one of the 30,000 denominations is right?
I know. They all say that they're right. And how could that be?
Yeah, I had many Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on my doors in various places that I've lived. And, they would basically tell you that if you're Baptist or if you're a Lutheran, evangelical, Catholic, you're not going to heaven because you don't have the right gospel. But they won't tell you that the founder, Charles Taze Russell, it's not just the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, who was a 33rd degree Mason, by the way, involved in secret societies. Joseph Smith, founder of the Mormons, 33rd degree Mason as well. Do you think there could be a little bit of an agenda underway to create these divisive, different mindsets? When it's really simple, really, when we're talking about Jesus with the I am the way, the truth, and the life, that's the way of love and compassion. That's the way of heading towards a unity consciousness. And it's not about dogma. So which one of the 30,000 Christian organizations is right? Which one? Which one do you believe is right? Obviously, they can't all be right. And in fact, when we look at, what was debated at the First Nicene Council in 325 AD, it was things as basic as, was Jesus divine? Is he just another teacher, messenger, as Islam believes? Another rabbi, as Islam and Judaism view him as a quote-unquote prophet, but nothing different than anybody else, just a great prophet. We could view him as an ascended master. And then there were those that thought he is actually God in the flesh. So you could see that there's no agreement here as to, what is the official doctrine. And so you do have people that are of perhaps an evangelical persuasion that think that all the Catholics are going to hell, and vice versa. And so, what is the truth? And even in Islam, you have a division between the Sunni and the Shia, and they are at war always. We see that manifesting itself between Iran and Saudi Arabia, for instance. There's always been the proxy wars going on. And in Judaism, you have 3 major strands of Judaism as well. And some don't even believe in an afterlife. That's the thing when you get down to the core of it. It's a mess. And so we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater when we start getting into the minutia. And so instead of saying, you have to find Jesus, why don't you say you have to find love? You have to find peace in your heart. You have to find compassion, because here we see there's been war after war. Millions of people were killed in the Americas when the conquistadors first came, and then the English came, and the French came. And, always, doing it for the greater glory of God. Meanwhile, stocking up the riches, taking all the gold, taking all the natural resources, pushing the natives off of their own land. Columbus didn't discover anything but just another resource for the rich. That's all he discovered. It's ridiculous to think in glowing terms of people that are conquering other terms. They are not true Christians. True Christians wouldn't put other people to death to basically steal their wealth. So, the Christianity that Christ taught is not what has been practiced here. But in every single different denomination, in every single different church, and out of the churches into the mosques, into the temples, and then into, those whose belief don't need a temple, a mosque, or a church. There's always saints, because each individual is a unique expression of Source itself. And so we do find saints in all different traditions, people that led exemplary lives and ascended past the divisive acts. And, when we look at the wars that were led by Christianity and retaking the Holy Land from the Muslims, and get ready, because this is all part of what's been planned for what's coming in the next chapter. It's just an eternal battle of divisiveness and keeping us set against each other. We could go and look at Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan predominantly Islamic, Armenia predominantly Christian. And of course they are fighting to this day, and people are suffering. So the bottom line is unity through diversity, and there's no way this world's going to escape the nonstop wars until it gets that point.
That's very true, and it's a very beautiful message, and I really hope that a lot of people take it into consideration that there's not just one way to love.
This world will never be conquered and put under one dogma. It's just not going to happen because, the creative part of the human soul, each one is unique. And as we said, it's an expression of the divine. So this is how things are intended to be. There is supposed to be diversity. Diversity is a thing of beauty. It's to be embraced. And of course, if we're going to have diversity, we have to have compassions for others, and we have to respect others' belief. When we look at vibration, the vibrations that put out by certain thoughts, certain emotions, when you are told fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom, well, look at where fear is. Fear is way down here. Fear is not going to bring you to heaven. It's going to do the opposite. So we are the product of our some emotions. That's where we are vibrating at. Again, everything, like Tesla said, when you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy first and foremost, because everything is energy, just like Einstein also has verified. And energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. It can only change. And Tesla also talked about vibration and frequency are the keys. So when we are going up, we can see how low these emotions are. Shame is super low. Guilt is super low. Think about this. When we're given dogma of, you are born into original sin, you are worthless, you are not worthy of salvation, you're not worthy of anything, that's throwing a lot of guilt on people. That's a lower vibrational frequency. Thus, for me, I think that's a total BS dogma. I don't believe in it at all. That's the dogma put on slaves by slave masters to keep them in their place. Then we see apathy, then we see grief, then you climb up to fear, then we start changing a little, you see desire, and we've been taught in this culture to always desire more. I'm driving around a little Toyota. Well, I need a Mercedes. I got to have that Mercedes because it's status, and just using that as something. I'm living in a 700 square foot shack and it's got a hole in the roof, and well, the American dream, I think it would be nice to have a 3,000 square foot home with, 2 Mercedes or 2 BMWs in the driveway. That's cultivating this, which is not a very, very, very high vibration. Then we have anger, pride. I'm proud to be American. Well, there's way higher vibrations than pride as well. So you could see we have been entrained into keeping our vibrational frequencies much, much lower than they need to be. This is going to keep us locked up into this matrix, this lower matrix. As we've said before, when you start looking deeper into the mystery traditions and the traditions of the East, it's you who judge yourself, and you judge yourself by keeping yourself in certain frequencies and vibrations. So if you're going to be all about guilt, fear, shame, grief, and desire, you're dooming yourself to a loop of lower vibrational frequencies. We need to move up. You see, neutrality is sitting right here. It's above those things. And yet we could do more as we jump up and we look to love at 500. And love is expansive too. Think about how you react when you have certain emotions. When you feel guilt or shame, you kind of draw into yourself, right? Your energy body and everything pulls inward. And when you pull inward like that, you're shutting off your ability to let go of things that need to be let go, which causes dis-ease in the mind first, and in the heart and the emotional center, and then in the body. So when we look at something like cancer, that is a disease that is born of these negative self-emotions, emotions you feel about yourself, like I'm worthless, feeling shame, feeling guilt, feeling fear and grief. We need to expand. And when you feel feelings of love, you feel your energy just emanating outward. It's beautiful. And when joy, even more. I mean, it's sending out. Love and joy kind of roll together. And they send this beautiful wave that leads to peace and enlightenment. And that's going to take us up into the higher realms, not dogma.
And I know there's a lot of people out there who've been through a lot of things and they have a lot of trauma, and that can keep us down into the lower vibrations, and that's not your fault. But there is a lot of healing that can be done. There's a lot of self-work you can do to help yourself reach those higher vibrations, and it's really important that you do focus on healing yourself so we can all reach this place of enlightenment.
The religions of the world are different matrices that you step into. Different belief systems are different matrices. So you step into a certain belief system and you follow along, and there's other people around you that are doing the same thing, so it feels comforting. Because it's good to feel that we're not alone. But we could do more than that. We could step into a higher vibration. And again, there's religion and there's spirituality. And religion can be good, and spirituality can be even better when we start living a spiritual life, which means everything we do is geared towards this knowledge of a higher vibrational frequency. Everything we do is going towards that unity consciousness, is going towards making the world a better place and having love and gratitude and joy because of what is here around us, and this opportunity to lift ourselves up and to grow and to transform not only ourselves but the world.
It's a very beautiful message, and I hope this has helped a lot of people.
So guys, thank you so much for your support, Ko-Fi and Patreon as well. We couldn't do it without you. Hold love in your hearts, and in time, hopefully the world will release itself of these divisive dogmas and embrace just simply pure love, peace, joy, and ultimately enlightenment for the greater masses.
God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.